B'siyata d'shmaya, with Hashem's help, we're going to begin this week's Inner Dimension shiur and parshas Devarim with Hashem's help. And I so much appreciate everybody who's with us, all the holy chevra. It's so amazing to see you guys with Hashem's help. Ami, Jacob, Ariel, all the chevra. So special to have you with us, mamish. Jesse, Ami's got the sunlight of redemption. Thank you so much for being with us, guys and girls and everybody in between. You never know these days. So we welcome everybody here to Yerushalayim R Kodesh, the Baal Shem Tov Torah b'machshavto shel Adam, like we say, where a person's mind is Shamhu Adam. That's where the person is. And so if you're focused, so to speak, on somebody who's speaking from this land, from this place, from this holy soil, that means that you're there. That means that you're mamash there. And I want all of us to really close our eyes for a minute and to believe, emunah shlema, that in some way you're with me. That in some way there's a part of you and a portion of you that's always here, that's for sure. But certainly now you're with me, and it's so special to be able to learn with you as always. B'siyata d'shmaya, with Hashem's help, M'shem Hashem nasa v'natzliach. And a good Chodesh to all of you. Chodesh Av is always a bit of a strange Rosh Chodesh, no? It's on one hand, it's Rosh Chodesh. It's a celebration. It's a beautiful, wonderful time. On the other hand, it's Av. Mishenichnas Av mematin b'simcha. My father Shlita likes to say that Chazal tell us Mishenichnas Adar marbe b'simcha, Mishenichnas Av so mematin b'simcha. So my father says it's always a matter of making simcha more or making simcha less. But the status quo is simcha. The only question is that there's more simcha or there's less simcha. It doesn't say we eradicate simcha entirely. The question is how much of simcha we're having. So Mishenichnas Adar marbe b'simcha, Mishenichnas Av so mematin b'simcha. But the status quo of a Jew is simcha. And we're going to learn in Mirz Hashem at the end of this year from the Kozhnitzer Maggid the way that an oveid Hashem who's serving the Master of the world, api pnimius, api chasidus, what it's like, what our attitude is supposed to be in these days, a counterintuitive, crazy thing, really a radical thing that the Kozhnitzer writes, but that's so very important, particularly for our generation and particularly in such a time with such difficulties and such struggles. And all of you, I mean, I only see some of you, but the faces that I see, I know our chevra that we're here in Eretz Yisrael physically and are no longer able to be here. And I know how much particularly you guys are yearning and how you were a little bit cheated out of a very special year and out of a very special experience. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu will pay you all back b'kifli keflayim. It's not a question to me. There's nothing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is taking from a Jew, so to speak, that he's not going to repay him back double and triple, like the mashal from Ramayl Biederman says, that a person comes to the door, a person's collecting money, and the person opens the door. So if the person asks, so to speak, from the person who's collecting $5. So it's clear, because this is how the things work, that the person who's in the house is going to then give him, so to speak, $10. Right? He's taking change. He's taking $5. He wants to give him 5. He's going to give him 10. But if a person asks for a 50, that means he's going to give him 100. And the more the person is asking for change, kiviyachol, so the person is going to be giving, and the person is going to be receiving that much more. And that's how it is in our lives. HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes something from us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, challenges us and puts us through difficulties and trials and tribulations. And the question always is, how bad, so to speak, and how difficult is the struggle? Because the more difficult the struggle is, the more change HaKadosh Baruch Hu is asking from us. We can be sure that the more He's going to give us, so to speak, in return. So, Be'ezer Hashem, let's delve into the sources from this week's shiur. I'm going to try to share my screen with Hashem's help. And we'll delve into the sources. Okay, so you guys can see the source sheets? Yeah? Thumbs up. Okay, great. B'siyata d'shmaya, let's begin our shiur with the Heilige Tiferes Shlomo, with the Redamsker. A very, very deep teaching. A very important teaching for this time. And the pasuk begins, Ayivur, that's the Redamsker speaking, but the pasuk begins, Eila Devarim. This is how our parshas starts. This is how the Sefer starts, Mishnah Torah, the repetition of the Torah in the mouth of Moshe Rabbeinu, speaking to the entire Jewish nation. Eila Devarim, these are the words, Asher Diber Moshe El Kol Yisrael, that Moshe Rabbeinu spoke to the entire Jewish nation. Yesh L'Dayik, says the Redamsker Tzaddik. Yesh l'dayek, a person who reads this pasuk with a discerning eye, realizes shinui halashon, that there seems to be a change in the way that this pasuk speaks, which is in differentiation to the rest of the psukim in the Torah that are like psukim that are similar. El kol Yisrael v'lo nemar el kol b'nei Yisrael. We see in this pasuk that Moshe, these are the words that Moshe spoke, El Kol Yisrael. Everywhere else in the Torah, says the Radamsker, that you have a similar pasuk. It's always with the words El B'nei Yisrael, to the Jewish nation, to the children of Yisrael, so to speak. And over here it just dives right in, El Kol Yisrael to Yisrael, to Israel. What's the difference? Why over here don't we have these words B'nei Yisrael Kamei B'chol HaTorah Kula like we find in the rest of the Torah? Achein hine Rashi zal perish. If you look in Rashi on the pasuk, Rashi brings from the Medrash, from the Sifri, I believe. Rashi brings an amazing point. That why did Moshe need to be so careful to collect all of the members of the Jewish nation together, that there shouldn't be one person missing? Is it really that big of a deal? After the speech is over, the guy will go home and he'll tell his wife or his daughter or somebody in the family that couldn't make it, he'll tell them what Moshe Rabbeinu said. It's going to be written down, Bar Torah, in 70 languages. We have it recorded. What is it so important that everybody needs to be here? And the answer that Rashi gives based on the Medrash is that over here Moshe Rabbeinu is giving Musar. He's giving Tochacha. It's a little bit veiled in the beginning of Devarim. But Al Kapanim, Moshe Rabbeinu is speaking about all the difficulties that Am Yisrael went through, and all the times that they turned their back on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and all the times that they expressed their nature of being Am Kshei Oref, of being stubborn and being hard and stiff-necked, which again, in a certain way, like we talk about sometimes, can be a very positive thing. The Azaz to Gedusha, the holy stubbornness, to stand up against every challenge to Avodas Hashem, even when it comes from God himself, Kiviyachal, like Acher, who shouldn't have listened, who should have been able to hold on to that Azaz to Gedusha, to say, Rabbanu Shalom, Ben Kach Hu Ben Kach Banayhem. But in the beginning of the Parsha, Moshe is reiterating and describing all of the difficulties and all the negative expressions of stubbornness that they went through. Says Rashi, if a person wouldn't have been there, if a person would have missed the event, Rashi says it would have been possible for his father, for his brother, for his daughter, for a family member, for a friend, to come back after the speech and tell him, Moshe really gave it to us over the head. Moshe really, he laid it all out. And he said it would have been possible for a person to have said, if I was there, I would have given him an answer. I would have stood up for Am Yisrael. I would have said, it's not true what you're saying. If I was there, sometimes you see things on the news of a person, particularly if it hits closer to home, a Jew who is the subject of anti-Semitism wherever it is. And all the tough guys afterwards are saying, if I was there, what I would have done, how I would have responded, how I would have acted, I would have been the big hero. If I was there, I would have spoken up. I would have protested. I would have punched the guy out. I would have done something if I was there. So the Medrash says, in order to protect against a big tough guy afterwards, to say that I would have stood up and I would have yelled at Moshe and said, it's not true, the mussar that you're giving us, which of course was true. So Moshe Rabbeinu needed to collect every member of the Jewish nation to make sure that there was nobody who could have such a claim afterwards. To show it to them that you're all here and you're silent because you're accepting of this, that you messed up, right? That you stepped off, so to speak, the path. Not just once and not just twice, but many times. So he says, Achein hine Rashi zal pirish l'chach konsam kulam. And he's quoting from the Medrash, and he's quoting Rashi, that we gathered all of the Jewish nation together, kol mi sheyesh le'tshuva yashiv, that Moshe Rabbeinu was able to tell them, you're all here. Anybody has something to say, now's the time. Stand up and speak, or forever hold your peace. This is the time to speak up, and everybody was silent because they were able to receive the musar that was coming from Moshe Rabbeinu in great love, but it needed to be said and it needed to be expressed. And so these are the words of Rashi, that Rashi says, "Sheyesh lem lahashiv al devreim atoivim." I'm sorry, rather, kol mi sheyesh le tshuva yashiv. Anybody has an answer, anybody has something to say, speak now. Says the Radamski, what does this mean? What kind of tshuva, which is an answer, what kind of answer would they have given? What does this mean? What's the havamina? That anybody has something to say even afterwards. Moshe Rabbeinu is recounting what happened. What does this mean? That we have some sort of a chashash. We suspect that if not every member of the Jewish nation is there, there's going to be somebody left afterwards who's going to say, I could have answered him up. What could you have answered him? Moshe Rabbeinu is stating facts. What does this mean? Again, what he spoke was good. He didn't make things up. And the musar that he gave came from love. Why would anybody have felt the need to answer? What does this mean? That anybody who has a tshuva yashuv. Says the tzaddik, Chusya Ganalim Al Kol Yisrael. Amen. What a privilege to learn his words with you. Achanira beremes. He says we can understand this al pi pnimius, the remes here. Hazeh. Dihine inyan eila hadavar asher diber Moshe b'nei Yisrael. All the tzaddikim say that these words that Moshe Rabbeinu was speaking to the Jewish nation, lo yisa hadar levad diber. Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't just speaking to that generation. Ki gam lechol hadairos, to all generations until the end of time, and that's our generation. Mamish at the end of time. You and I are standing, like I like to say, with one hand mamish on the doorknob. We're ready to go. We are the generation of Mashiach mamish, and what a privilege! What a privilege! What a privilege to be able to be in this generation that sometimes, like I mentioned before in a previous year, we feel like we're low and we feel like, what can we do? What can we accomplish? But the answer is Chevra Mamish. We have to have this engraved on our hearts. These three words, Anachnu Dar Mitsuyan. We are an awesome, remarkable generation. Remarkable generation. It's counterintuitive because we go through such difficulties and we go through such problems and we're so susceptible to tumah and we're so susceptible to lowliness. But this is the dar of David HaMelech. This is the dar of David Malka Mashiach, of Malchus, of revealing the Malchus to Kedusha, God's presence even in the lowly pockets of existence, even in the lowliest elements of the human condition. This is our generation. This is what we're being called upon to do, and it's not so pretty all the time. But this is what we're being tasked with. So many times Chaver reach out to me, and so many times I reach out to myself, all the time. And I'm asking myself, and others are asking me, and I'm asking others, and everybody's speaking about the difficulties that we go through, and how much we come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and we say, give me a break, give me a break, I want to serve you, I mamish want to serve you. We feel compelled. Sometimes you read it in the Svarim about, taiva and taiva and taiva. So many of us chevra that are sometimes, again, we have better times, we have worse times, but we feel chained to this. It's not taiva, we hate it. We pashut hate it. Right? All of us know. It's the worst thing in the world. We don't want before it, we don't want during, we don't want afterwards. The taivas achila, and the taiva for lashon hara, and the taiva for lowliness, and mamish taiva is what it is to be a male, to be a female in this generation, everybody with their own struggles. We hate it. And we come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and we're protesting. We say, Master of the world, give me a freaking break. Cut me some slack. I don't understand. I want to serve you. And the answer, of course, is that what do you know what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from me? What do you know what his cheshbon is? What do you know that he wants you to be sitting and learning, the whole entire day, the Kedusha V'Tahara, and he doesn't want you, so to speak, to have to go through this experience of standing up and starting fresh after 1,000 times falling. How do you know what Avodas Hashem he wants from you? The Ishbitzer already tells us that the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's a radical thing, is not necessarily all written down in Shulchan Aruch. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has his secrets. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is misabev with us. He's running our lives. We think we're walking. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is pulling the strings. He's leading us. And so we have to sometimes go with bittul to say, if this is what you want from me, again, we have to try our best. Can't use this as a justification, of course, and none of us want to. None of us want to. We mamish want to live elevated lives. Anachnu dar mitzuyan. We're the generation of Panemias. We're the generation of essentiality. All of us. We're the highest and the holiest. But we have to come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and say, Rebbe Shalom, I'm a vatal to you. Because you apparently want me to serve you in a different way for now. And this is David HaMelech, revealing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, revealing to Klal Yisrael rather, in his return after the lowliest sins. Apparently, of course, the Chazal tells us that he didn't sin. But this experience that David HaMelech had, that he sinned, that he chatasi, the Negdi Summit, all these psukim, Tareini Ma'avayni, that David HaMelech, in his return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, was lahiris tshuva liyachid, was to teach each and every individual how to do tshuva. And who knows what nachas ruach HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets from us. Who knows what pleasure he has, dafka from us. So on the one hand, we're a lowly generation, but it's our lowliness, and it's the potential for such lowliness that gives us in the same measure, the potential to be mamish the highest in a way that none of the other generations previous were able to reach these levels, to get up, and to keep fighting. We mentioned Azaz to Kedusha with this incredible holiness. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is speaking to all generations, from the beginning of time to the end of time, and again to reiterate, this is our generation. And it's not just generation from a father to a grandson. Generation is an era. The tzaddik hadar that Rebbe Nachman speaks about isn't just in each generation, it's in each era. There were certain tzaddikim that came down to move Yiddishkeit forward, so to speak, into a new phase, into a new era. And this is the final era, and it's been already since the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. Already the tzaddikim then were talking about Ikvus of the Mashiach, this is it, we're at the end. Masha'en Kain, what they were talking about, even though it's a crazy thing, everybody believes it's the 13 animam that Mashiach comes today. But you don't see from the Ramchal that he was talking about Ikvus of the Mashiach. Strange thing. Even though they all believe that Mamash Mashiach is coming any minute. There's Bi'ita, there's Achishena. Right, there's Mashiach coming in its allotted time, and there's bringing Mashiach every day. You don't see from the Rishonim that they use terminology like this, Ikvasa de Mashiach. Because then we would have been in Ikvasa de Mashiach from the moment that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. Masha Enkein, we don't see that. What we do see is for the last 200 years, 300 years, 250 to 300 years, the Tzaddikim have been telling us that this is the final dar. This is it. And this is our tikkun, and this is what we're being called upon to do, to face the challenges and to stand strong. This is the dar of Ein Shemiyush. This is a dar of Anachnu Dar Mitzuyan. Let's hold on to it. Let's believe in it. So this is from beginning of time to the end of time. Eila ha-devarim, lo'ila oisa hadar levad diber, ki gam lechol hadaris, v'chol anashamas ha'asidim liyos, adi moisa Mashiach v'hala. Interesting thing. Until the days of Mashiach v'hala, and even onward. Strange, to hear about neshamas being born after Mashiach, but that's what he seems to refer to over here. V'hala, and the neshamas that will come after Mashiach's time. Would have been nice to be one of those souls, Miss the whole geschäft to come afterwards, a fixed, perfect world. Lo zachinu. He says this whole Mishnah Torah, the whole Sefer Devarim, is filled with prophecy, is filled with futuristic portention. L'chal ha'asid lavai, to everything that's going to happen in the future, la'olam, forever, for eternity. This is it. This is the end, but the Torah never ends. It's forever and ever. Like the pasuk says at the end of Devarim, it's not just with you people standing here physically that I'm making this covenant. It's to those that are standing with us today, and it's to those that are not standing here today. And again, all the Jews of that generation were standing there. So it must mean, like Rashi tells us, for all generations. This is the covenant. These are the words that are echoing within our consciousness forever, forever. God had us in mind. There's few better feelings in the world than the feeling of realizing and knowing in the moment that I am on God's radar. I'm still on his radar, so to speak. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is thinking of me. When a person experiences hashkacha, when a person sees that he thought he went to a certain place because he wanted to, but it turns out that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought him there for a crazy reason. All of us have stories, and I personally have many stories like this in my own life. But the feeling and the rejoicing is not just the wonder of saying, whoa, something happened here. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is real, God exists, but it's that I'm still in his mind. I'm still on his radar. He still cares enough about me to go ahead and to run my life because it matters on some level. And we have to realize that it's not just when we feel that and experience that mamish hashkacha in our lives that we're allowed to enter into this consciousness. It's every single minute, because the pasuk says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has us all in mind from beginning of time to the end of time. And no matter who you are, no matter what your situation in life is, if you're alive, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving you life. To each and every one of us, we were included in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's consciousness. Kiviyachol, we were there in a spiritual sense. Mamish, Hashem has us in His mind. We exist to Him. We are real to Him, and He needs us in a certain way. So here he says, in our generation, in the Ikvas of the Mashiach, which we started mentioning before. What's the tikkun of our generation? What is our generation being called upon to do? Is to return. And Shuva, Mirz Hashem, as the Lost Princess Initiative unfolds, and we're going to get into, the book will be released, Be'ez Hashem, and the webinar course, and the curriculum, and all the wonderful things that we have planned, that we've been working on for years. This is just the beginning, like I keep on saying. It's amazing stuff, Be'ez Hashem, that's going to be unfolded. But a major part of that concept and the derech and avodas Hashem that we're trying to bring down to the world is this nakuda that tshuva is only possible after a person has a failure, after a person has a falling. And that means that the tikkun of our generation is to go through nisyonos that are kimat efshar lamed behem. Ein sadik ba'aretz asher yaseh tov li'achta. I couldn't say it on myself, but the pasuk says that each and every individual knows what he goes through, knows what he went through. And our tikkun is tshuvas, to return. This is what I brought the Lost Princess Initiative in, because the book, in the first chapter, we really go into the essence of understanding that tshuva doesn't just necessarily mean what we all think, traditionally it means to return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but tshuva in its essence, b'shorish, means to return to whom? To oneself, to the essence of who we are. And that's the lost princess. That's the princess inside that all of us had when we were young, when we were children, the innocence, the purity. The Rav Kook says, as I bring in the book, that Rav Kook writes that the Jew spends his entire life working and working and working to get back to what he had as a child and lost. That's what a Jew is spending his whole life trying to accomplish, to bring back the feeling and the radical amazement and the wonder and the simple faith, v'chule, v'chule. All of this that we're trying to tap into. This is it. This is the dar of Mashiach ever. This is what we're being called upon to do. So this is the dar of tshuva. Not just to return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of course it means that, but to return to ourselves, to return to our essential identity. This is what we're being called upon to do. What a privilege. What a privilege. So our generation is the dar of tshuva. The pasuk says that when you go through difficulties at the end of time, and this is our generation at the end of time, and you'll return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That tells us that what's the ikar avoda in the final generation is to return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to return to the chelik l'kami mal, to return to the heavenly part of our being, so to speak, to return to the essential identity of the Jewish soul. Right, like the pasuk says, and the pasuk continues, God will then ingather us and bring us all back to Eretz Yisrael, and bring us back to the Eretz Yisrael within, to the Yerushalayim that all of us have inside that broke, which is Yerushalayim, which is the complete awe and the complete consciousness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to live with a childlike emunah, that simple faith that there's a real God, He's real, and He exists, and He cares about us, and He loves us infinitely. That we lost that. At the end of times, we're going to return to all of this, and Hashem will bring us back to Eretz Yisrael physically and spiritually. B'meher b'yameinu. Let it be today. V'chein amar HaKasav, and the pasuk says in Yeshaya, Im tova'un bayu, if you will seek, shuvu esayu, return and enter. This is speaking to the last generation. This is going on exile, to the end of exile. Sha'amr shomer, the pasuk says, Sha'amr shomer, the watchman says, who's watching, so to speak, over exile, Mamilel, right? What's going to be with the night? Mamilel. Ma'yimi oirech hagolus. And the watchman, and these psukim are right next to each other, that speaks about returning, is saying, what's going to be with the length of galus? And the answer is, Shuvu asayu, return. Again, another pasuk speaking about the necessity for tshuva, for return in our times. How are we going to bring the end of Galus? It's to return, and it's to be in a perpetual state of return. It's not simply a scientific process that a person was -1 and now we do tshuva and we're back at 0, and that's, meaning back at status quo. The tzaddikim taught that tshuva is an eternal process, because it's not just about a checklist of am I doing everything right, am I doing something's wrong, and what I have to fix. It's about connecting to the Ein Sof, right? It's about building a relationship with the Infinite One. And if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is infinite, that means that any perception of Him, any possibility of building a relationship with Him is infinite. And so tshuva is an eternal process. We're constantly sitting in humility and in brokenness in a holy, healthy way. At the opening of the Pesach, like David HaMelech, Pischu li Sharet Tzedek, please open the gates, even though I'm already in the previous gates. But now I find myself at the bottom rung of the next staircase, and it keeps on going. When I reach the top of one staircase, also a Lost Princess Initiative idea, Be'ezer Hashem, as you'll see, we're at the bottom of the next staircase, and it keeps on going, and it's infinite. To be in a perpetual state of tshuva, to be in a perpetual state of recognizing our lowliness in relation to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's infinite and overwhelming love. This is our generation. This is what the pasuk is telling us. These are the words that Moshe Rabbeinu is speaking for all times, until the end of time, until the final redemption. The Hagula, about the final redemption, when all of us will be together, standing in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's why the pasuk here doesn't say B'nai Yisrael, because it's not talking about the Jewish nation throughout history. It's talking about the time where it won't simply be B'nai Yisrael. The fact of our Jewishness and our essential holiness will be so revealed that it will mamish be Yisrael. It will mamish be the visage and the appearance and the likeness of Yaakov Avinu himself. When all the pieces of the mosaic of the collective soul of Knesset Yisrael are brought together as one, it won't simply be little pieces that are collected together. It will be Mashu Acher. It won't just be B'nai Yisrael. It will be Yisrael, mamish. That this is what the Jewish nation is. That comes together, like the Ishbitzer describes, to form a window through which HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light is shining down into the world. So therefore, because the pasuk is speaking to our generation, so it says Eila Devarim again Asher Diber Moshe to all times El Kol Yisrael, because it's speaking about our generation that's going to bring Mashiach. V'zeh Amar, and this is what Rashi tells us: Kol mi sheyesh lo tshuva yashiv. Doesn't mean that anybody who has an answer should answer. Of course, on a simple level, it means that. But Rashi is telling us something so very deep. That because we're talking about Yisrael, because we're talking about the final dar, because we're talking about the generation on the border of the Yarden ready to go into Eretz Yisrael, because we're talking about Moshe Rabbeinu speaking to our lowly souls at the end of time, says Rashi, you know what your oveid is? Right? What's the words? Im yesh lecha tshuva, mi sheyesh le tshuva yashiv. That means that our tikkun and our avod in this generation is to return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is to return to ourselves, is to break down all of the walls that we build, to protect against people catching a glimpse of our vulnerability, catching a glimpse of our essential innocence and purity. Stop with the games. We're only in the world for 70, 80, 100 years. We should all live until 120, Be'ezer Hashem. With long and happy and healthy lives, with only goodness. Begashmis of Ruchnis, Be'ezer Hashem. But it's a joke, it's a game. Be open, be sharing, be vulnerable. Tell the people that you love them. What are you waiting for? There's no time. Make up with chevra. There's no time to waste, mamish. And then afterwards we should be kicking ourselves for eternity. It makes no sense. To break down the walls and to be essential, to be your ideal self and to live that way, and not to be ashamed and not to be embarrassed. Of who are you embarrassed? You're connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We said in Hallel this morning. Al tivtechu min adivim. She'ein like to show. What should I trust by other people? There's a pasuk here that I'm not remembering, but in that kapitel, right as we come to the end of Hallel, we say, what should I care what other people are thinking of me? I'm connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm connected to the Master of the world. I have that relationship that lifts me to the most elevated place every moment. And this is what Rashi is telling us. Tshuva yashiv. This is a remez that in our generation it's going to be about tshuva. It's going to be about utilizing the challenge, but also the opportunity of the lowliness that we have access to be able to assume our rightful mission. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent our souls down to this generation, not the soul of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov was the highest and the holiest, the Gra, we can't even speak about. How holy and how lofty and elevated, but the Master of the world, Kanei didn't trust them like he trusted little you and me. There's a challenge and there's an opportunity. And our opportunity is the opportunity of tshuva, which again, conceptually necessitates lowliness. It's almost like a hechsher mitzvah. It's like, right? It's like you can't do the mitzvah without the preparation. The tshuva is mitzvah d'oraisa. You can't do that mitzvah without the preparation, so to speak, of having fallen. Sheva yipol tzadik v'kam. Not despite the fact that he fell, but because of it. That he's able to tap into an aspect of elevation that beforehand, without sinning crazily enough, and who are we to understand what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing with all of us? But this is what he wants. This is our generation. He has more pride from us than anybody else. The way Chaim Vital writes, that the simple ratzon of a Jew in the last generation is more precious to HaKadosh Baruch Hu than the learning of the Tanoim and Amiroim. I couldn't say this myself, but Chaim Vital writes this. And the Chidah brings this Reb Chaim Vital down a few hundred years later and says if Reb Chaim Vital said said this in his time, so imagine about in our time. And here we standing in such filth that they couldn't believe, that they couldn't dream of. In their lowliest fantasy, they couldn't have dreamed of this. Alachas kama v'kama 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 1,000 times. We're so hard on ourselves. And we beat ourselves up, and like Rav Kook says, we're cruel to ourselves. We have to appreciate. There comes a time for cheshbon nefesh. There comes a time for tshuva. There comes a time for assessment. There comes a time for fixing. There comes a time for really being honest with ourselves to say what gedarim I need to make and how I need to go ahead and improve. Enechanami, b'li sheila. But we have to at the same time be looking ourselves in the mirror and saying, do you know how holy you are? Do you know how precious you are? Do you know how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves you? How much pride he takes in you? The little rutzon that you have. Was any other generation put through a Holocaust? Was any other generation put through generations of trauma that's built into our subconscious and so much lowliness? Everybody speaks about trauma to the few privileged individuals who then can spend their whole life kvetching about the trauma that they had. Again, each person needs to get their help. But the truth is, each and every Jewish person is traumatized. We have that built into our spiritual DNA. The worst things possible, mamish. The worst things. And if a chol zayis, after all of this, shimcha lo shachachnu, to stand up and Shemana Esrei, look up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and say, I don't always act the way that I should. But in this moment, I'm expressing my essential ratzon. This is the tshuva, to return to my true self, master of the world. Look at me. Look at me. Filthy as I am, lowly as I am, but look at me. I love you. And I have a genuine desire to improve. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu kisses our every word and kisses our every holy desire. We have to believe this. We absolutely have to. We can't survive if we don't have this. Our children won't be able to survive if we don't gift this to them. It's a chiyuv. And we have to review it 1,000,000 times. Sounds simple, but it's not. It's the Yetzer Hara is at work all the time, trying to make us feel low, trying to make us feel out of it, trying to make us feel like we're finished, we're over. It's part of the game, Mechever. It's part of the game. It's part of the game. This is our generation. Kol mi sheyesh lo tshuva yashiv. Return. Ki b'dara achron ikar tala b'tshuva lashav al Hashem v'sham v'shav v'kibetzcha mikol ha'amim. And from there, from that place of lowliness, from that place of necessitating tshuva, which again is a place and a matzav of Sheva Yipol Tzadik, from that place HaKadosh Baruch Hu is bringing us home. He's bringing us home. We're the generation that's seeing the fulfillment of prophecies in front of our eyes. He's bringing us home. We're baderech, Chevra. We're mamish baderech. What a gift, what a privilege. It doesn't look like we're going to have time to see the Shem Yishmuel. It's Hashem for next year. Let's jump into the third source of Avodas Yisrael, the Kozhnitzer Maggid. And we'll try to get through this a little bit quickly, but it's mamash apel. It's a chiyuv to see this before Tisha B'Av during the 9 days. So important and such a radical shift of consciousness that I couldn't believe it when I read it. And before I continue, I always say this, but it's true each and every time. Anu, I thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it so much. It gives me so much chizik to know that there are Jews in the world who are setting aside time from their busy schedule to be able to learn the teachings of the tzaddikim. It's like, I'm so grateful. I don't take it for granted. I really genuinely don't. Thank you so much, each and every one of you. I can't go through the list now. Thank you all. But the ones that have your video on that I'm looking at, thank you. And the ones that don't have the video on, just for being here, mamish, I so much appreciate it. Thank you so much for being with me. And so here we jump into Avodas Yisrael, and with this will come for a landing. This piece from Avodas Yisrael is in last week's parsha, but it's relevant dafka to the 9 days. Hine, or rather, Hagam, says the Kozhnitzer Maggid, Yisrael Hagam, Shazman Grama, Lios Atziv Nenacha Churban Beis Hashem. This is a time to be broken and to feel the weight of 2,000 years exile on our shoulders. And like Rebbe Shlomo Karbach teaches that one of the deeper reasons why we don't wear shoes on Tisha B'Av, we wear shoes, right? But that's only because what's called shoes in Chazal is leather, and for us that we don't wear leather shoes, or we buy shoes that aren't leather, so we wear. But the etzem is that you don't wear shoes at all, right? Shoes means leather, so you don't wear leather. But really, you don't wear shoes on Tisha B'Av, right? Al pi Chazal, halachically speaking. That the reason that we don't wear shoes is because, like Rebbe Shlomo describes, he says you can walk into a bank wearing a t-shirt, or, not dressed in a mechubedika banking sort of way, without a tie and a suit, and they'll let you in. But he says you can mamish walk in there with a tuxedo, but you walk in without shoes, they don't let you in. You're a nobody, right? Shoes is ma'akiv to say that I'm a somebody. At least I have shoes, right? At least I have shoes. Chazal say sell everything but buy a pair of shoes, right? Person needs shoes in the world. Person without shoes, society is realizing that there's something off with this person. He's a nobody. And on Tisha B'Av, I'm taking off my shoes because I realize it's not a matter of tshuva or no tshuva. It's a matter of if the Beis HaMikdash didn't come yet, I'm nothing. It's not pshat, I have good things and I have bad things and I have to validate all the wonderful things that I have and all the negative things that I do tshuva for. That's Yom Kippur. Tisha B'Av, we're in such a state, only temporarily, but in such a state where I feel mamish that the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim is everything, and if I don't have the Beis HaMikdash, I don't wear shoes because I'm a nobody. I'm pashat a nobody. With all of my good things, that's worthless. Schar olam haba, all of my delusions of madregas, klum, Tisha B'Av. I bless us all. We should be dancing in the chatzir of the third Beis HaMikdash. It's very shaykh. Today I'm saying, we've seen crazier things happen almost in the past year. We should be mamish together, physically, linking arms without any fear of it, wearing a mask, not wearing a mask, in the third Beis HaMikdash. This Tisha B'Av is going to be the biggest yantiv in the world. But Tisha B'Av historically is this day that we feel like nobodies. Al kol zeh, im kol zeh, listen to this, a crazy thing. Yesh lechazik es atzmai, says David Yisrael, a Jewish person needs to strengthen himself in this time. Ulitaher levava, and to purify his heart. V'lavad Hashem b'toira v'tfila b'simcha. And to make sure that during the 9 days when you're interacting consciously with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the goal of Chassidus is that every single aspect of our lives should be consciously interacting, so to speak, with the Master of the world. But Al Kapanim, on a simple level, Torah, Tefillah, we're davening, we're learning. Besimcha, with great joy. Befrat b'shas amir shiurs v'sishpachos. You get a chance to wake up a little bit earlier and to come to shul and to say properly Psukei de Zimra. With great joy, with great rejoicing. Shocking thing. Where's the Kozhnitzer get this from? Says they had a good Kozhnitzer. I want to tell you a parable and an analogy. The way of a physical king, a human king. He has all of these tremendous orchestral performers that are coming before him to do wonderful things. So he says, when the king is so full of joy, we don't need to bring in the whole orchestra to come and perform for the king to make him happy. He's happy, he's in a good mood. They have the day off. He's joyous. But if something negative happened and he lost the battle, even if he won the war, and something happened to him, and there's a lowly mood and there's a matzav of darkness. So as yikru hapartim al haneva l'shiram l'zimram l'samech lavavi l'atzil banim. So then the person who's appointed on the orchestra, his job right away is to go and make sure that they bring them all to be mesamech the king, with all the court jesters and all the chevra that are there to make merry and to make that the king's heart should be lifted up and brought into the light of joy. It's an amazing thing, and this is such a uniquely Hasidish perspective, such a uniquely Pnimius perspective, because it's all about the other focus. By Hasidus, it was all about how's Hashem doing, right? It was all about, it's not about serving Kadosh Baruch Hu for my reward and even for me to get close to Him, Tikkun Amidas, it was about what's best for Kadosh Baruch Hu. What does Hashem want now? Even when it came time, so to speak, for that to be in contradiction with what Chazal tell us we're supposed to be doing at the moment, very, very deep. We find big tzaddikim that were acting sometimes contrary in certain states, and it wasn't just the radical tzaddikim like the Ishbitzer that talk about this. The Berditchever says the same thing. And the tzaddikim that everybody accepts, so to speak, also speak about sometimes the tzaddik knowing that here's a time to do something else. There is a concept of Aveir Lishma that we do see, according to the Nefesh HaChaim, that stopped after our Sinai, without getting into the whole machlokes of it now. But each and every one of us on our own levels, particularly when it comes to a consciousness, to a mood, to a focus, to an angle. Says the Kozhnitzer, it's about the Master of the world. Of course, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has millions of angels. And the Malachim, like we talked about, the Malachim, how much pride do they bring Hashem? Does He love the Malachim? Does He say, Ben kach u ben kach malachai heim? They matter to Him, they're connected to Him, b'shorish. How much joy does He have from them? Okay, so they're hired help, and they make happy. They sing shiurs to the shvachas, and it's cute. He likes it, he enjoys it, whatever that means. Manimim loy makalsim shmoi, they're praising Him. But when the holy Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, yesh atzi bebate barai. There's etzev, there's depression in the outside, in the inner chambers. So again, it's only Misha Naga Hashem Beliba, which is hopefully each and every one of us on the call, that we care deeply, not just about the checklist Judaism, not just to make sure I'm doing everything right, I'm not doing something wrong, but we care about how Kadosh Baruch Hu is feeling. We care about what He wants. And to enter into that place, and it's a challenge for us, because deep inside we want nothing more than to feel the brokenness and to mourn properly. There's nothing worse than not being able to mourn properly. What a gift the Master of the world gave us, Shiva in 30 days, right? To be able to mourn. None of us should know from such a thing. Everybody should be happy and healthy and well till 120. Mashiach should come with Chiyas HaMesim. We shouldn't know from the Indian of Misa at all, Ubila Mavas Lanetzach. But Akapanim, to be able to put your own consideration to the side for a moment, that it's not about what you and me want. It's about what HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs at this time, even though he couldn't say it, because yes, he needs us to be broken, but it's about, despite feeling the feelings of the moment, to stand up and to be mischazek and to enter into that chamber, leave all the depression at the door, and at least when we're serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to cheer him up, kiviyachol, and to bring honor and to bring joy to the honor of the king, and to say in front of him, and to say this and save these source sheets. I'll send it out. Anybody who wants on the broadcast, reach out to the admin and we'll send you the sheets. To be able to say with your mouth, and all of us should be saying this, don't give up. You think it's only we who need chizik? Kadosh Baruch Hu needs chizik. The Baal Tanya brings in Tanya at the end, and Rebbe Nachman, when he heard that the Baal Tanya said this, he was very, very happy, and he said, it's right, that's right. Rachamecha Rabim Hashem, the Pasuk says about HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mercy. God, your mercy is great, but the Baal Tanya writes at the end of Tanya, and Rebbe Nachman said it in Yiddish, Rachamecha Rabim Hashem, that there's a big rachmanus on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Big rachmanus. Rachamecha Rabim Hashem. How much rachmanus, how much pity we have to have for what we do to God, and how at stake He is in our lives, and how much He trusts us with, and how much He has to go through all for our good. Rachamecha Rabim. He needs chizik, and to be mechazik Him. Ata malkeinu mi'olam. Sometimes even the king needs to hear it. The timlech le'olam va'ed, Ribbonu shel olam. The Jewish enterprise lasts forever. We're not giving up. Don't give up, Ribbonu shel olam. Ein shum yish. To tell God this, to strengthen Him with great joy. And to remind Him, Kiviyachol, that everything is ka'ayin negdecha. And we're coming back to Yerushalayim. Look at the positive, Ribbonu shel olam. Look at the silver lining. Look at how you're bringing us back. It's the end of history. How things are elevating, like the Tzaddikei Pnimius always saw the world, no matter how bad it was getting. But Pnimius, it's rising, and it's Yeridas Hadaris. It's Aliyas Hadaris, the best generation, the highest. It's always rising, 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 rising. And the Yisayu Kol Avdech, all the Pesukim in Yeshayahu, talking about the Geula Shlema. To repeat this with great joy throughout the 9 days. To be Mechazik HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Of course, there's a Bechina of Atzvos. Of course, there's a Bechina of brokenness. But the question is, can we set that aside for a few minutes to enter into the inner chamber? HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want the small little servant. The king doesn't want the small little servants, who are cleaning the beds, to come in and give him some chizik. He wants his closest friend, his advisor. To them, the king is resolute, and the king stands up and he says, everything's fine, everything's fine. They're not ro'i to go ahead and to see the vulnerability of the king. But to the chevra that are connected to Pnimis HaTorah, the chevra that are connected to this kind of approach to Avodas Hashem, where it's not about me, it's about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're, so to speak, in the inner chamber that HaKadosh Baruch Hu feels comfortable exposing himself to us. We need to understand that this is what we're being called upon to do, to cheer the king up and to enter into the inner chamber and to tell him, Ein Shem Yish, Master of the world. We're coming to the end. We believe in you and you believe in us. To remind him, Kiviyachol. And with the last minute, we'll go through very, very quickly. He says that the Admar, which is the Maggid Mizrich, told us famously, Ramaz B'Pasuk, Kol Reitfel, Hisigua Bein HaMetzarim, that the Pasuk in Eicha tells us that anybody who is running after Am Yisrael, Hisigua will catch up with them, Bein HaMetzarim, between the constraints. In this period of time, the 3 weeks is called Bein HaMetzarim. But the Heilige Maggid Mizrich said that Kol Reitfeha is talking about Kol Roidev Ka, anybody who runs after HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the concept of Hamelech Basadeh, that the king is in the field. The king is more accessible than ever. The king is more vulnerable than ever. The king is expressing his essentiality in a crazy, vulnerable, revealed way more than ever. The king is in the field. Hamelech Basada, like the Chabadskers always used to scream. Hamelech Basada, and this is the time. Kol Reitfeha, Kol Roidev Koisi, Gua Ben Amasarim, Dani Kol Misha Roidev, Lahamlechas Haboire, Yuchel Lahasig Yoser, Dafka B'Yamim Elu. Dafka in this period of time, to set aside the depression a little bit when we're serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to cheer him up. It's not about what you and I feel and what you and I need. It's about entering into the inner chambers and to grab onto HaKadosh Baruch Hu's coat, Kiviyachol, and to say, Master of the world, we're not letting go and we'll never let go. And this ties back to what we were starting with, and with this we'll finish, that this is our generation. This is the task. This is the Bechina of Tshuva. Is it pretty? It's very, very ugly. We're all very, very dirty. I could speak for myself. I'm very dirty. I'm very, very dirty. But this is at the same time how beautiful we are. That we pulled through. That we managed, after being battered and broken, to somehow escape. And the dirtier we are, the more battle scars we have to demonstrate how much more kavod we brought to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That when we finally come back and we finally attain that closeness that we're yearning for, we can go ahead and say that not only is there HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'shamayim, and not only ba'aretz, but b'tachtis ha'aretz, b'tachtis sha'ol mamish, I was able from that place to reveal that HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light is able to reach even me, even down to the lowest depths. This is the tshuva. This is a v'chol zeh shimcha le'shachachnu. This is our generation that's being called upon to return to the Master of the world, to find the lost princess, to locate that innocence and that beauty and that simple faith. And ultimately, this is the biggest chizuk, not just for us, but for the Master of the world to be mechazik him, rachamecha rabim Hashem, the rachmanas we have on Hashem, to be mechazik him in this time, besimcha v'tuv levav. Let it be soon that we should be able to dance with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, be'eskalos, to be able to point with our finger, hinizeh Hashem kivinu loy. This is the God, this is who we were serving. It wasn't about the mitzvahs, it wasn't about halacha, it wasn't about the Torah, it was about Him, that He is front and center in our lives. Everything else is included in that desire to connect with Him. Let it be soon that this Tisha B'Av should be mamish, the biggest yantiv in the world. It should be what they call a fleishig Tisha B'Av. We should be able to eat together with the Suda of the Leviathan here in Yerushalayim, Bekar of Mamish B'meir B'yameinu. Amen v'amen. Thank you so much for joining Mamish Schus to be able to learn with all of you. Thank you, Jacob, Ariel, Mamish, all the new faces. Thanks for tuning in. Ami, Chaim, all the chevra. Yehuda, thank you so much. Jesse, Mamish, Yal, Debbie, Tova, all the chevra. Thank you so much for tuning in. What a privilege to be able to learn with you. Wishing you the most beautiful, beautiful Shabbos.